Hey everybody, my name is Stuart Moore. This is Landscape Rescue. Let's go do a Lowe's shopping video. And I want to go over some plants that can enhance your landscape right now. I know a lot of us are going through kind of a latency period where our spring blooming stuff is kind of fizzling out. So I want to go through some good deals, some things that we can do to enhance our landscapes today. So one of the first plants on my list is going to be this tight squeeze arborvitae. Look at this guy. Okay, very dense habitat. Now this used to be called something else. They rebranded it. It used to be called Green Sport, but they didn't really feel like it had, the name didn't have any impact and really didn't describe what we were doing to lead you into some sort of expectation to what the plant's gonna do. I think tight squeeze is probably a better name. The marketing team did a good job there. This is only gonna get 12 foot tall and about 5 feet wide. Let's face it, that's almost perfect. That is almost perfect for an evergreen anchor. That's almost perfect for softening up the corners of a privacy fence. I could use this as kind of in that corner of the privacy fence, and then I could plant something fun around it. This would obviously be my top tier, and I'm only gonna have to come 2.5 feet away from the fence and 2.5 feet when I start planting stuff, 2.5 feet in front of it before I start my mid-tier or my first tier. If it's gonna be a 2-tier system, if I'm gonna put a 2-tier in there, this would be the softening of that immediate harsh corner. I like to have those corners softened. This would be a great choice for that. Now, it's in a 5-gallon Monrovia pot and it's 74 even. If you only need one, that's not a horrible deal. I think this does a little bit better than the emerald when it comes to arborvitae, which this is an emerald. It's not as tight. So this emerald is in a much bigger pot, let's say a 7 for $57.89. And if you're that close budget-wise, you could probably go with one of these. I like to shear them just to keep them looking tight. So I think the better choice would be the tight squeeze. I'm not used to calling it that, so I'm not gonna be able to just roll off my tip of my tongue. So here is a smaller emerald, right? So this is a smaller one for $32.98. So that's not a bad deal at all. And they're about the same size. The tight squeeze is just gonna be, I think it's gonna be more Hershey Kiss shaped, right? So it's gonna be more like a cone. And I really like that look, especially in the backyard when there's some snow. I like the Christmas tree look. So anyway, we're probably gonna have to do that because I'm getting my chops busted at home about not having any evergreens. It's been decades worth of chops busting about us not having any evergreens. So that might be a good option. Now this isn't a change your life right now scenario, but I gotta talk about the paperbark maple. I love the paperbark maples. They're relatively rare. They're relatively expensive. And so when you can find one at a box store, which is usually known for very low margins selling in mass, right? Which is what they're good for, giving us good value, good bang for our buck. The issue is this is in a Monrovia. I haven't looked at the tag yet. It's 104 for a 5-gallon paperbark maple. This one is, I'd say in the ground. In the ground is probably gonna be about 6 feet, 6.5 feet. Not what I would call a super fast grower, but it is maple, so you get that beautiful maple color out of them. 25 feet by about 20 feet. So as long as you're 10 feet away from something, 10 feet away from something else, right? So we take 20 feet, divide it in half. That's how far away things need to be. I think you'd be impressed with this tree. It makes a great focal point. They're less trouble than a birch, and you get that peeling bark. But it does take some time. They don't grow as fast, right? They're good to zone 5 through 8, and I think they're just a spectacular specimen tree. And this one is pruned up. I wish there was more soil in the pot, but it's probably fallen over 7 or 8 times because it has been windy this year. This has been a very windy year. But I like how it's pruned up. When you're looking at a tree, I don't want you to spend too much time looking for branching structure and things like that. I know that's contradictory. Don't spend a whole lot of time on that because if you look in the ground, this thing's gonna be 6 foot tall. If I'm gonna prune it up to about 6 feet, which is where the minimum pruning distance, right? I'm gonna prune up minimum 6 foot tall so I can work underneath of it, right? None of this is gonna be on the tree. But you look in the ground, just guessing this branch right here, the sun is just in a horrible place to shoot this. So this branch right here is about, I don't know, if my knee right here is where the pot is, would you say that's 3 feet off the ground? It's not gonna leave me a lot of room to get some light in there 10 years from now. Right, so as a specimen, I'm gonna wanna clean it up pretty high. I'm gonna wanna clean it up maybe to that 6 foot mark. A lot of trunk, a lot of peeling bark, right? To accentuate the trunk. I think that'd be sharp. I think that'd be a good addition. And it's not a crazy price. It's not a crazy price. I have a hard time finding paperbark maples when people ask me for them. I have a difficult time to do it. It's an old, like talented landscaper tree to throw in. A lot of those old landscape designers kind of went through the school of hard knocks. Those guys that I really have a lot of respect for, they use a lot of paperbark maples, and it's really hard to get them enough of them. Paperbark, $104, pretty good price. For as rare as it is, let's put it like that. Okay, so one of the things that can enhance our landscape right now is this 2 for $10 sale. Now I know typically they do a 3 for $10, and that is a great deal. But we're talking about right now. What can we do right now to enhance our landscape now? And getting the best deal on the plants is really gonna help us do that. So this 2 for $10 sale, these are all gonna be $5, right? And Dianthus, my Dianthus is rocking and rolling. The Dianthus that hasn't been trampled by the lollipop has done very well and looks really, really good. Not huge, but lots of buds. So it's gonna give me little pops of color. And really, let's face it, we do a lot of this for the people that are driving by our houses, but really we should be doing it for us. And if we're walking around enjoying our outdoor space, enjoying being around our plants, then small little flowers like this, I promise will brighten your day, especially if you can put it in a place that somewhat surprises you. Maybe on the backside of a path, or maybe I have to walk to the other side of this flower bed to see this Dianthus. And maybe that's not my intent. I'm walking around just because I'm walking around, and then boop, it's popped. And it really brings something special to the experience when I can surprise myself a little bit. Now this Dianthus is Scent First Raspberry Surprise Dianthus, and it's very, very pretty. And I think if you've got a spot where you could plant some of these, full sun, beneficial fungus, beneficial bacteria, 2-year fertilizer tabs, or some sort of food for them, I think you're gonna really be impressed how much impact a little guy like this can make, and especially how much impact it can make for $5. Here's another one on that. Here's another Dianthus on the 2 for $10 sale. This is Scent First Eternity Dianthus. Look how pretty that guy is. That is a pretty Dianthus. So for $5, this will enhance my landscape right now. I do like the idea of this. Here's some Scabiosa. And Scabiosa is one of those plants that really doesn't do a whole lot for me. It's kind of weedy, but mixed in with some other stuff, Scabiosa will perform for you. And it's pretty stinking tough. It's one of those plants, pincushion in general, one of those plants that's just hard to kill. And so if you've got some areas where you're kind of having issues with it, or keeping stuff going, just think, now obviously we don't have any echinacea on clearance, or we don't have any echinacea on the 2 for $10 sale. We haven't gone back to the clearance, but I doubt there's really any of that up there. I mean, if there is, it's coming home with me, right? But Scabiosa would be a good companion plant for those things that you can put in the same situation. Black-eyed Susans, echinacea, Scabiosa, salvias, you know, things like that in that problem area, and just kind of let that evolve a little bit for you. I think it wouldn't be It's not a bad plant. It's just, you guys know me. If you're new to the channel, welcome. But for those of you who know me, you know I like to plant in mass. So I get that massive emotion, I can get that massive impact. And Scabiosa I don't think looks great in mass, if that makes sense. All right, here is another Dianthus, and then we're gonna go to another really tough plant here in a second. Sugar plum Dianthus. This is part of that Scent First series. And popping, I mean it's popping, and for $5, especially if you have something coming next week or this weekend where you can, you know, dress up your landscape really quick, you could affect some real change with 30 or 40 bucks when everything's $5, right? Does that make sense? Another really tough plant that is hard to get rid of once you've got it, unless you use pre-emergence. I have found that they'll age out on you because there's no more new pups if you use pre-emergence regularly. But this is kind of a fire and forget perennial, which is, this is Barbican, red blanket flower, or Gaillardia, right? So very pretty. It gives you that kind of like rusty orangish color, which works well when you start getting them, when those blooms start to mature and start doing that. Really matches well with Stellas, really does well with, the issue with these is they don't get huge. It depends on the variety, blanket flower you go with, because there's about 1 million of them, about the height that they get. They don't compete well with faster growing stuff. They just don't get really big, so they're almost like your first tier. So your first tier in areas where you've got a lot of wispy kind of like, it's kept, but it has that unkept feel, that mixed border feel. I think Gaillardia will really do a good job for you as your frontier. I wouldn't even put a Liriope or something like that in front of these. These are typically always my first tier. Maybe if you were doing annuals, you could do Gaillardia and then like some Alyssum or something in front of it if you had some annuals. You know, like a really low growing annual. I'm not a huge fan of, I am a fan, but not a fan of like Portulaca. I like Portulaca, but I feel like it needs to be deadheaded. And by the middle of the season, you're deadheading Portulaca for half of your day because there's so many blooms and there's so many spent blooms. Yeah, Gaillardia is good for that. Front row, low growing annuals in front of it, that looks pretty sharp because they do bloom all year. Now, if you're not using pre-emergent, they'll free seed, that's free plants. You can dig them up and you can move them around in the garden. Just be prepared. There's gonna be plenty of volunteer Gaillardia in your garden if you don't use pre-emergent. Dark Tower Penstemon. I do like this. They have a tendency to lay down for me. Now, as much rain as we've gotten, these haven't laid down. I'm pretty impressed by that. I would only do 2-year fertilizer tabs with the Penstemon, especially the Dark Towers, because those get taller than like Husker Reds. But look how pretty that is. Can you imagine that kind of popping in, intermixed with some Stellas and some Black-Eyed Susans to get this dark purple color? I think that would really be sharp. And for $5, it's something that you can do right now that will enhance your landscape right now. Very pretty. I would only do tablets or triple 14. I wouldn't do both with that because I feel like if we push them too much, they have a tendency to fall over. I guess another solution to that is you push them and you cut the bloom off, right? So I'm just dealing with foliage. Well, at that point, knowing that I'm going to do that, now it's a frontier plant, right? It's furthest forward tier, my first tier, if I'm going to cut it, because then I'm just dealing with foliage. All of these, full sun, everything that we've talked about so far, full sun, and I do really like this 2 for $10 sale. I like the 3 for $10 sale even more, but 3 for $10 is usually like they're trying to push through their bookings. If that makes sense. They book a lot of plants, and if they haven't bought a lot of their bookings, they will push them all out and then throw that sale up, and they get to burn through their bookings that way. They take a hit, but you know, here's kind of how it works. If you book as a Lowe's Garden Center, if I book 20,000 1-gallon black-eyed Susans, I'm taking all 20,000 black-eyed Susan. All 20,000 are gonna be spread out throughout Lowe's. And so if there's 10,000 left, haven't had a good year in black-eyed Susan sales, whatever the case may be, those 10,000 they're coming home with you. You know what I mean? Like Lowe's has to use them. So they put things out like the 3 for $10 sale, and usually it's not necessarily late, it's midsummer when it's really, really hot. It's 98 degrees outside for me, 95, 98, 102, and now I'm trying to plant brand new perennials. See what I mean? So a little risky. I like the 2 for $10 because we're still getting mild temperatures and we're still getting spring rain. Does that make sense? Boy, that was a long talk. All right, another way to make some impact right now, especially in shadier spots in your garden, are lighter colored heuchera, right? A lighter colored coral bell. This one's caramel, all right? I used to sell a lot of these. Caramel coral bell, look at that color. Can you imagine that up against some hostas or some darker coral bells like a Palace purple or even like a plum pudding or something like that? Watch the sizes. The sizes can sometimes with coral bells kind of get you a little twisted. You'll have some smaller coral bells behind your big ones. You can always trim these. Coral bells, I love to trim coral bells because that new growth is always so pretty. And if you look down further in here, I can see it on this side. There's lots of little leaves. You can actually go in and you can just kind of trim them out. But some varieties of coral bells, there's a lot of dynamic in that leaf as it ages. So, you know, do some experimenting and finding out what will work for you. But I really like the lighter colored coral bells because I can use them in combination with hostas with that fatter leaf. Hostas don't have a whole lot of character to the leaf when it comes to texture, but these have a lot of character when it comes to texture. Look at that. So a good texture difference inside a shadier space. I do think that coral bells bring a whole lot to the table right now. All right, there's a big drift of calla lilies over there and a big group of calla lilies, all from Monrovia. These are so pretty. They are not hardy in my zone. We've gotten lucky a couple years where I've planted calla lilies and they've came back just with a heavy layer of mulch, but I don't really feel like it's worth the risk to try that. It's better to pull them out of the ground and overwinter them. So good to 30 to 20 degrees. Now this is $12.89. Think about what this could do if you just bought 4 of them around your bird bath in that shadier area, in your hosta area, in your coral bell area, especially with these leaves that got the little white speckles on them. This one's called the Nashville calla lily. Any of you Zone 8 folks are probably, I'm so jealous. I'm so jealous of Zone 8. You'll probably do a lot of these, very pretty. And I think even if you told yourself, I'm gonna pull them up, but know deep down when you have a conversation with yourself, you're not gonna bring these back in, it would still be worth it. So keep an eye out for these on the clearance rack. They've got them right by the entrance and I don't wanna spend too much time squatting down over there, but I'm just gonna give you a quick snapshot and I'll just say the names of these. Now these are really tiny ones. These are little, $7.98, and these are called Captain Paco calla lily. These are little tiny guys. Yeah, very pretty, very pretty. All right, I say we go hit up the clearance rack. Let's take a look. They got a Monrovia truck in, and I kind of briefly looked at the clearance rack. There was nothing over there. We'll go back over there, but look at all these Dianthus that they just got in. Look at this guy, man. American bumbleberry pie. American bumbleberry pie. Look at the size of these blooms. And it's loaded. It is loaded with blooms. That's gonna keep you going for a while. Now this one's $11.98. So pretty standard price-wise when it comes to Lowe's shopping for 1 gallon Monrovias. But man, I really like that. Now, I'm a little confused. This is an American bumbleberry also. So something's up. Let me do a little bit more investigating here. Okay, I wonder if the American bumbleberry is kind of like a Cheyenne spirit echinacea, where it just kind of does its whatever in the heck it wants. Because look at this. There's, you know, these both are the same, but there's a red bloom on this one that's broken. It's broken, unfortunately, but all right, research time. Okay, so I got to the bottom of it. Just went online, tried to look. Every description that I came up with for the American Pie bumbleberry was this one here. And so if you look at the sign, looks like that. American bumbleberry. This Dianthus, completely different, but if you look at the tag, American bumbleberry, and it's the exact same picture as that one we found. So I couldn't find, this kind of looks like a pinball wizard a little bit. I couldn't find what variety this is. Even, I don't think it's in the American Pie series, because when I went to look it up, I could not find this looking Dianthus in the American Pie series. I found the bumbleberry, but I didn't find that. So anyway, it doesn't change the fact that this is gorgeous. It doesn't, that's not what I'm saying. But they were mistagged. That happens. Sometimes you think you're buying a gold mop and you really just bought a King's Gold, because they look identical and mistakes can be made. So it is what it is, right? Let that be a lesson to us that tags are important. They're a great source of information, but they aren't necessarily always the right tag for the right plant. It does happen. Okay, so back to Dianthus. Here's another one of that American Pie series. Look at that, jeez. American Pie Berry a la Mode. And I think we've covered these before, but man, look at the amount of buds on this thing. Look at the amount of buds, it's insane. For $12. I mean, yeah, you want to talk about some plants that make your landscape pop right now? White with a purple throat, anything, right? Because white can be seen so far away. It's like got a built-in contrast to the petals. Wow, very pretty. Now this one's a little bit different. This one is the Georgia Peach, American Pie Georgia Peach. So wouldn't it be pretty in a full sun patch in your woodland garden to walk through and see this just blooming? Man, that would be so pretty. All right, more Coral Bell. This is called Forever Purple, and look how pretty that is. Wow. So $15.98, so you're getting into a little bigger pot, and they're gonna be a little bit more expensive. Like, not a stellar deal, not a super impressive price, but very, very pretty and what it can bring if I can throw an opposite in there. Now, purple Coral Bells, not as impressive in a shadier spot, unless you can pair them with something like this. Pair them with this caramel. Look at how much more impact that color has when it's paired up with a caramel. So just think of that. Purple, a little closer to black on the color wheel, so they're not going to stand out as much as the brighter colored Coral Bells will, but you can counteract that by throwing them with something closer to white on the color wheel. Okay, that's a thing. We won't spend any more time on that, but that's pretty. Oh, I can already feel this video going way longer. Strawberry Cream Ribbon Grass. So I think this is strawberries and cream. I'm a huge fan of this grass. If I did have a favorite grass, it would probably be Carl Forester because I've used it so much and it performs so well for me. But this ribbon grass, strawberry cream ribbon grass, is so pretty. So this actually gets little pink stripes in it. It's very dynamic. It's a cool grass. Now they got these for $9 in a 1 gallon pot here at Lowe's in Ozark for any of my locals. 2x2. So can pretty much be put anywhere. And hardy to -40. So we can all pretty much use it. I put them in full sun and just watch the fireworks. You know, I really like to pair these with hardy hibiscus because I love hardy hibiscus, but I love to pair these because they get enough pinkish color in them to where if I do like a Luna hardy hibiscus, those colors really play off of each other well. Not to mention the texture contrast, but that's a really good combo. For more of my veteran gardeners, for the newer folks that are just getting started, we've got a lot of people that could really use our support when they ask for it, and they're asking for it in the comments. Feel free, veterans, to chime in. I know Will is really good about that. He's really good about kind of like throwing his expertise in there, and we've got a couple other subscribers that really do that well. But don't be afraid to add to somebody's comment if they're asking me a question. Don't be afraid to go in there and help them, because that's really what this is all about. I know how polarizing plants can be. Like, I get it. I try my hardest to not be that gardener. Even if we disagree with each other in the comments, it's just another perspective. It's not really necessarily disagreeing. Don't worry about jumping in and answering a question, especially if I can't get to it. I'm pretty good about getting the comments when I see them. Sometimes I need you guys' help, especially in other zones. Let's collectively kind of be a community in the comments, and there's no ulterior motive with that. I know engagement is important for YouTubers. I just like the comments because I'm selfish, and I like to talk to you guys. Subscriber only Facebook group, that's another good resource for you because there's a lot of smart plant people. You got to think they're into plants enough to where they're going to join the Facebook group. They probably have a lot of insight that they can share, and they love to do it. The folks there, they're just good folks. It's a great little community, and it's low key, and you can ask a question and you're not going to get scrutinized. Nobody's going to call what you're talking about hogwash. Like some of the other Facebook groups I've been on, you almost get chastised when you answer a question or you ask a question. Especially some of the ones that revolve around landscapers. They're really rough on each other. Some sort of superiority complex they have when they're not standing face to face with somebody else. We don't run into that problem on our Facebook group. So it's subscriber only, answer the questions, great. Do that. And then we can share pictures with each other. So it's really difficult for me to help you if I can't see pictures of the space. It's going to be really difficult for anybody to give you advice if all we're doing is using our imagination and reading your text. That's going to be a good opportunity. And then to recap, don't be afraid in the YouTube comments to answer questions for people. And then I'm going to still respond, right? I'm not asking you to do my job for me. What I'm saying is if we can get a couple different opinions on what's going on, we can let the end user make the decision. And I think it is what it is. I don't know everything. I'm fallible. And there's only been one perfect person to walk the planet, right? And Michael Jordan doesn't do gardening. All right, there's one more thing that I wanted to show you before we go over into the clearance rack, because I don't think we're gonna have a whole lot of content over there. But it is this. I almost fell down when I saw this. I just saw it when I was walking by talking about the Facebook group. It's a tricolor beech. It's a tricolor beech. I really don't see these very often. This isn't huge. It's a little tiny guy, but a very, very rare tree that needs some attention. Do you see what I mean? I can't walk past it and not talk about it because they're so cool. Part sun. I was just gonna say, I don't have a lot of experience with them because they're very, very expensive. This as an entry level, tiny little 5-gallon tricolor beech is 120 or 119 even in a 5-gallon. And it's the size of a pencil. My pinky is actually thicker than that. But I slam that in a door, so it's perpetually swollen all the time. This one, little insight into my childhood. This is the size of a pencil, and it's $120. It's probably in the ground gonna be 4 feet tall. put that into perspective, the paperbark maple, which I feel like is just as rare to find at a place like Lowe's or even a commercial garden center. Just if you ever go into a commercial garden or a privately owned garden center, like a mom and pop place, ask them if they have any paperbark maples and then go look at the price. Then you'll see why $104 for a 5-gallon is kind of something that I'm going to stop and talk about. This is $119 for a 5-gallon, right? And this is half the size. So if that gives you any, if that gives you any perspective on how expensive those are, I want to show you, and there's some pretty pictures of these on the internet. I'm a morning sun shielded from the hot afternoon kind of guy when it comes to the tricolor beech. When it comes to like a weeping purple beech, I will put those in full sun. I planted one over at Affinity Estates. I bought one for them. I got a really good deal on it. It was out of inventory and when I worked at Site One. But look at that, man. I'll put some pictures up for you guys so you can see that, like I've been doing lately. Wow, wow. Not that I can afford that tree, but if I could, and I don't have any shade, but if I did, I sound like a gardener for sure. Let's go over. I've kind of derailed the emphasis of the video there. All right, what do we got? We got some tiny diamond Asiatic lilies over here, which are done blooming. That's why they're on clearance. And these are pink with a white throat. And tiny diamond. And let's just go ahead and double check the height. 12 to 14 inches tall. Those are originally $11.98, which is going to take us into that fourth tier, which is going to make this $7. And I think $7 for three bulbs is a little much. Don't forget in the spring to order your Asiatic lilies. Don't forget to do that. Hey, here's that giant bundle, the super value pack. For what did we say? It was $12 last time? Yeah, I think it's 50% off of 24 bucks. So yeah, boy, that would be a good deal. If you had to put a bunch of, make some impact quickly, this would be it. I think you trim this back and just let it just pop for the rest of the year. And for $12.50, I challenge somebody in Missouri soil to plant the hole big enough to put that in. I think you'd have to replace, or I think you'd have to divide it. More forsythia and oh, that really pretty rhododendron September Song. Look at this guy, September Song. They're done blooming now, but see, they're starting to push new growth, so that's a really good sign. And this is originally $79, so 50% off of that. That's still a lot, but that's a huge pot. It's a huge pot. Yeah, this was a forsythia. We don't have to talk about those. Yeah, that's it, guys. Not a whole lot over here on the clearance. But it's not time for clearance yet. June-ish. June is when we're gonna, oh snap. Look at this. Is this, this is Primrose. Why wouldn't they put that on there? All right, research time. Okay, we're good. Yeah, it's pink Primrose. I didn't recognize the botanical name because why wouldn't you just put pink Primrose on the tag? Why would you confuse all of us hillbillies? Doesn't make any sense. So these are $7. You plant some of these, you have them for life. They have completely taken over one of my flower beds and have done a very good job of choking out the May-night salvia and is trying its hardest to defeat my black-eyed Susans. And it might not work, but they're trying their hardest. I'm so impressed with these. I posted a picture of mine on the Facebook subscriber only Facebook group because they're starting to wake up right now, and it's just this. I probably took the picture a little too early because they're not really popping yet. But man, I love those. If you had a place in full sun that you can get some water to and irrigate, because they're very drought tolerant and deer resistant, but not rabbit resistant, I don't think. I think they eat the flowers off of them. But anyway, long story short, that's a decent ground cover for sure. Okay, so we were here last time and I was talking about these hydrangeas needing a lot of water, and they seem to have punched them out of him. So it is what it is. Without making this video too long, because you guys don't really like longer videos, I get it, or somebody doesn't, because the view duration on some of these videos that are 30 minutes are like 14 minutes long, so it's like less than half. So I got to keep the videos, I know some people are going to fuss at me about it, but I got to keep the videos somewhere around 14 minutes so YouTube actually shares my videos with people that haven't seen them yet. So I think we got a pretty good channel. You guys are a big part of that. We just got to get it in front of more people so I can do this full time. Yeah, I think we're good. We could sit around and talk about stuff for the next 45 minutes, but I feel like that's counterproductive. My name's Stuart Moore. This is Landscape Rescue. Thank you very much for letting me into your home talk about plants.